Studies here at Regis University, I found out that nature is everything. You know, as we go on through our lives and we live, we also need the things around us in order to live. Like the grass in my yard, for say, the fruits and vegetables that people produce that we consume. All of these things are very important. So, for a very few, maybe minutes, we'll say, I'm going to go ahead and describe the reasons why I think gardening is very important. And so, please just hear me out and pay attention. So anyways, I believe gardening is so important just because at our rate in our current time, we just deplete our resources like they're going out of style for the most part. And so I find it very important for us to be gardening all the time just because we can create our own vegetables, we can create our own food, and you know, you don't have to go to the grocery store and pay outrageous amounts of money for it. But all you really need is some patience, your own little garden. I mean, you can garden inside, you can garden outside. There's plenty of ways that you can grow your own food. So, for the most part, I find gardening just so terribly important. Just because, I mean, who knows where it'll be in the next 20 years, but if we can convince people to start their own gardens, to start growing their own things, to, you know, do whatever helps Mother Nature, I feel like we'll be 20 steps ahead when that time does come. I also find it very important to start gardening off at a very young age. The way I see it, or the reason I see this, is because children love learning things, and especially if you can start them off, start them in a gardening, have them working hard to grow vegetables. I mean, they're not going to invest 9 months of their time watering plants and taking care of their plants and seeing the way they grow and not to try them. I feel that they'd be very interested in trying everything that they've grown in their own garden if they have their very own hands-on approach to it. So, and one of the main benefits from this, besides, you know, children being able to learn how to garden, would also be they don't have to go to McDonald's and get fast food all the time. You can eat healthily, but you don't have to pay a massive toll to eat healthily. You know, there's no reason to go to Sprouts to go buy vegetables just because, you know, they're organic or, you know, what have you. More so, if you can produce all of your own vegetables in your own garden, why not? I mean, they'll save plenty of money. It just takes some time and some motivation. And especially if you can get a child to do it, they'll want to eat those vegetables, one. But two, they'll have that knowledge back for when they get later, or when they get older. And hopefully, they end up having their own garden throughout the course of their life. So, I find gardening very important for these many reasons.
Paradise.
I'm Scott Hauck. We are the founders and farmers here at Andi Ecological. Margaret, how'd you get into farming? How'd you get into gardening?
Well, it started with my childhood, with my mom in the yard. My mom was one of those ladies who walked around and stole seeds from people's plants, and we would go to the botanic gardens and she would cut little pieces of the plants off and then go home and propagate them. So that's where it started. And then I went to college and I learned a lot about the food system and how things work and where our food comes from and who produces it, and it kind of freaked me out. So I thought I would try my hand at it myself and see what I could do on my own.
I started gardening freshman year of college. Somewhere in between freshman year and sophomore year. I got an internship at an organization called Greenleaf, which is an urban farm run by high school youth from around the Denver metro area. The farm's located in 5 Points, Denver. And fell in love with it. I found my passion and my love and my trade in the earth and working with the earth. And so after 5 years at different places, learning learning at Greenleaf, learning a bit larger scale in Peru. Decided to start our own farm, our own operation, and try our hand at going about remedying some of the issues that are not only with our food system, but with the way that we interact with each other as communities, as an economy, just all sorts of a host of different issues, and trying to do our part to make a little bit of a difference.
So we talked about wanting to have our own project, mostly because, you know, it's always better to do it yourself, but I've always had jobs at other people, farming for other people, which, I mean, if you talk to anyone who does that, it's pretty difficult because, I mean, there's always a better way, and you should always be, you know, returning and doing a better job every year and always trying to do better and better. So when I was working for this guy, I just kept thinking there's so many things that we could do differently. And Scott's like, well, you know what? Why don't we just do it? Why don't we just do our own thing? So after we got back from Peru, we wanted to kind of think of the whole plan from the ground up, because a lot of business practices these days are unsustainable, and they're basically just schemes to make money quickly. And we wanted to kind of bring some of those lessons and ideals that we learned in Peru, with the sense of community, the sense of people, the sense of the ground up, and giving back to the land that you make money off of, because I mean, that's essentially what we were going to do. So we decided to try to put those things into practice with our farm here. I don't know if you want to go on.
Yeah, here at Aini, I mean, the word Aini in Quechua is it means the reciprocal energy that flows through communities and ecosystems. So in the way that the leaves from a tree give energy to the roots in the soil to give energy to the new leaves for the next year, we very much are trying to implement those practices here. We're trying to implement practices that are closed loops, practices that have more life at the end of the season as opposed to less. And this is, a lot of this stuff is not uncharted territory, but new territory for farmers. Farmers are, for a long time, have had an ethic of profit-driven production, which has essentially degraded the land past the point of being able to bear life anymore. And as a human species, we need to seriously rethink how we're interacting with our mother here. I mean, this planet is our mother. She gives us life. With every harvest, that is like a new gift that we can share with other people and take into our bodies and become replenished, you know, and it's an incredibly powerful thing, but it's something that we are all learning still. But like Margaret said, we need to, if you're gonna think about these issues, you need to dive in and you need to do it yourself. So I think the goals that we have for this business is to have it to where it's sustaining itself in all the ways that are necessary for it to keep living, but that we're living those ethics that we are so passionate about, that we're living the ethics of earth care, people care, fair share, you know, that we're living the ethics that are very much reminiscent of the Indian community that we saw, where everyone is truly living an interconnected life, and a life that is essential for the survival of the other. So yeah, I think going forward, we would just like to make those ethics real in as many ways as we can.
Yeah, and it's not just, I mean, of course the ethics are the backbone of it, but it's not just about the ethics either, you know, it's about doing things in a smart and efficient way, because, you know, a lot of the systems that we have in place now are just not efficient, they're just stupid, basically. We just waste a lot of water, which is something that we actually don't have a lot of, and we pollute the water that is headed downstream when we're at the top of the water table, so it doesn't make any sense to be farming with chemicals anyways. Another big part of it, for me at least, is to be able to set an example for people, not just our age, but especially our age. you know, because we're both young and just out of school and we're just going for it, and we want people to see that there's another way to do it and that you can do it. You don't have to just start working for some guy in a suit, you know. There's a lot of things that you can do in your young 20s to help yourself make money, but also give back to the land and inspire community building, also while eating delicious food. I mean, it just makes sense. It's just, so it's not just about the ethics, it's about just doing the right thing. That's the smart thing to do too.
Because it works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these systems that, they just work, man. I mean, Mother Earth has been doing this for quite some time, but creating the necessary environments by which to give life to plants and animals. So we're just copying off her, man. Copyright infringement on Mother Earth. But I don't think she minds.
So now that we've heard from Scott and Maggie, we're going to meet Debra from Green Gate Urban Farms and see what she has to say about gardening.
Grass back here and in the front yard as well. And my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, brought me a 6-pack of cherry tomato starts. Not yay big. So I thought, oh, that's nice. I'll just pop them in the ground. And so I popped them in the ground, and they went gangbusters. And those were the most delicious tomatoes I think I've ever eaten. So right then and there, pretty much got addicted to gardening. I just started buying more plants to put in the ground, and like peppers, I remember was another big one. I bought this grapevine over here, which basically gave me 100 pounds of grapes last summer. I bought a peach tree, sheet mulched all the property, and just put in edible landscaping everywhere. So basically, it's just what I love to do. There's a lot of options in the world, and I've thought about a lot of different options, but it always comes back to this is what I love to do. And so the beauty of it is I'm actually figuring out how to make some money doing it too. So that's kind of nice.
Awesome.
In 10 years, my goodness gracious, I mean, I just put one foot in front of the other, and that's how this all happened. None of this was pre-planned. It was one foot in front of the other, little small, slow solutions, and it all just kind of came together beautifully. And a lot of that came from observing. I've only been at this, believe it or not, 7 years? 2007 is when I started this project. So, my gosh, look how much has happened in 7 years. I'm really unable to even imagine where I'll be, but God willing, I'll be doing the same thing, really, doing what I love, and that's growing food and creating community and just getting to know my neighborhood and hopefully influencing people and influencing them and to start this themselves. That it's not that hard. It's not overwhelming. You just plop a plant in the ground and see what happens and go from there.
Awesome.